Welcome to Richplanet TV. I'm Richard D. Hall and I'm joined again today by Gary Heseltine. Welcome, Gary.
Thank you.
Now, Gary is a former police detective and has devoted much of his life to UFO research, and we're going to discuss on today's show one particular case which took place in Brazil in the 1970s. And this was a case where the military were involved because the members of the public were reporting some very strange phenomenon, and they were actually being harmed by beams of light coming down from the sky. So if we can just first mention where this took place, Gary, and when, what part of Brazil was it?
It's in the northern corner, in the what's called the Para region, state of Para, in the northern region of Brazil. And basically what you had, it's at the mouth, it's a small island with a town called Colares, which is at the mouth of the Amazon.
Right.
And basically it's a pretty rural fisherman kind of community, but basically the local people started to report that they were being attacked by beams of light shone down by flying objects, UFOs, that we would refer to. And basically people were being struck by a beam of light, sometimes multicolored light, but it was generally in the area of the breast area on men and women, and also the neck, and it was producing like a puncture wound. And I think you've got I've done an image of one of the actual, it looked like a bite, but it actually wasn't a bite, but there is in the package that I've given you,
right, yep,
in the images down there, I think there's a large image of the back one there, this one here.
Yep. Okay.
Right,
So
this is an actual photograph of one of the wounds. Now this began occurring in the August period of 1977. So this is a long time ago, but this is arguably one of the best and most evidential cases anywhere in the world, and yet other than a few dedicated researchers, there's not really that many people are aware of this case or its possible strategic importance, for the simple reason is what happened was, as a result of all the people coming in and complaining that they've been attacked by these beams and which were causing injuries, obviously the people then went to the local doctors, and a doctor, Dr. Wellade of Carvalheiro, began treating these people, and she treated of about 80 victims during this several month period, I think a 4-month period. She treated about 40 of the 80 victims. Now 2 people actually were reportedly died of these injuries, but she treated many of the people with these kind of very similar injuries. Now, and she too herself, after being initially very skeptical of what people were telling, i.e. some light in the sky shining a beam down, she was obviously naturally skeptical and looked for a logical explanation. But she too herself one day witnessed the beams coming down and people being attacked, so she too became a witness. Now the people started to leave the little small town of Colares, which is about population of 2,000, and started to move out the village, and they were complaining to the local officials, to the town mayor, the local police and things like that. So eventually the story got back to the Brazilian Air Force, and cutting a long story short, they decided to assemble a team, probably thinking there was nothing to it, to go down to Colares and set up observation points with a view to trying to capture these sort of UFO activity, and indeed they did.
And it was known by locals as vampire light phenomenon, or the suck-suck phenomenon.
Yeah, now, they called it chupa-chupa, which is suck-suck, apparently in Portuguese.
Now, let me just read this. It says, Dr. Wellade told Revista UFO that the wounds were 1st and 2nd degree burns, not over 15 to 20 centimeters in extension, and mostly located in the thoracic region. The most impressive feature was that the skin of victims assumed a rotten-like appearance, as if the attack had occurred days ago, even when they happened only a few hours before. Those attacked by suck-suck also complained of vertigo, pains in the body, shakings, prostration, drowsiness, weakness, hoarseness, hair loss, the scaliness of the injured skin and frequent headache. It seems those lights took not only the blood from victims, but has detected also their vital energy, because they had no more forces to do anything. So it was draining them of energy, and it was so these beams of light that were causing these injuries, it seems, were taking blood from the victims
at the same time, which is a bit bizarre.
So did the doctor actually find any loss of blood in the victims? Are we talking large amounts of blood?
Not that I'm aware of.
Right.
Not that I'm aware of.
Now, let's come on to the craft themselves then, Gary, or whatever these beams were coming from. Have we got witnesses who've seen the objects that these beams appear to be emanating from? Just tell us about that.
Yeah, well, obviously from an evidential point of view, we have a number of witnesses came forward, villages, that people who had been attacked or had seen the images. But where in terms of evidence it gets interesting is when the Brazilian Air Force set up an operation which actually takes place and lasts for about 4 months, and basically it was under the direction of Captain Hollander, and basically he went down with a team of Brazilian military, and they set up at various observation points, and during this 4-month period they saw multiple UFOs craft coming in close proximity, and some of the documentation that's released, if you look in your pack, and I'll refer to a couple that you've got examples as well. We're talking about absolutely very detailed drawings. These would be by the military people, the witnesses involved. So for example, looking at the camera there, this is clearly a triangular craft showing appear to be 3 beams of light and its movements. Another one here where you're looking at real structure of objects seen as described by military.
So this one, it looks like a classic saucer shape.
Absolutely, you know, but
and
there were cylindrical objects seen, all shapes and sizes.
Right. Now I would say it's possible, but I don't know this for sure, that let's say that the UFO, this disc-shaped UFO, is maybe something non-human, but maybe the triangle, maybe that was some covert aircraft chasing them. You think, or
well, no. I think some of the sightings, as reported by the military, are really detailed. And there was a program put together called UFO Files, which deliberately centered on the military, because how this became really well known is when A.J. Javad, the Brazilian researcher, and his friend Marco Petit became aware, they were contacted by Captain Hollander some 20 years after this had occurred, who then went on camera, on video, to say that this incident had actually occurred, and he went on to say that they were there for 4 months, and then suddenly, just as they were getting loads of great information, videos, they were taking cine film of the UFOs, close proximity, hundreds of photographs, the operation was pulled. And it was Operation Prato, Operation Plate, but basically the operation was pulled, and he doesn't know why. But the interesting thing from that is that the documentation pretty much has been released. A.J. Javad presented something like a 300-page report on the actual military witnesses who've done detailed drawings, who've gone on the record at the citizens' hearings in April of last year, 2013. But they then had a meeting, I think it was in May of 2013, and sat down with the Brazilian Air Force on an official basis.
Right. Now we'll come to that in a second, Gary. We're just going to go for a short break. More about Operation Prato after this.